That's my tool, man.
No, man. That's your ticket to jail.
I didn't do nothing.
Tell that to the judge, punk.
I didn't do nothing.
Your son was arrested today on suspicion of car theft.
I didn't do nothing.
And CTV's Rob Brown is following this story. He joins us now from Vancouver. So, Rob, what happened today?
Well, today, Jacqueline, the Crown was simply outlining its case to the jury, and essentially after that got on with airing those transcriptions, that testimony that was first heard in 2003 during the trial. The audio recordings of that testimony is now 3 days worth going to be before the jury to consider. So basically the Crown was laying out its claim that Mr. Reyat lied 19 times under oath back during that trial, and obviously as a result, as we've heard, not only as a result of that, but other occurrences during that almost 2-year-long trial, the two men who had been on trial were acquitted.
Now, Reyat, remind us, he was a convicted bomb maker. He was sentenced to 5 years, but released, right?
Yeah, he almost served a total of 20 years, actually, for 2 separate convictions. So he was first convicted in the bombing at the Narita airport. You recall there were 2 bombs back in June of 1985. One exploded prior to getting on an Air India flight, killing a couple of baggage handlers in Japan and injuring 4 others. Now, Mr. Reyat in the early 90s was convicted of making that bomb. He always maintained he had no idea what the intention of the bomb was. He thought maybe a car or a bridge was the target in India. He says he did not know that they were intended, these 2 bombs, for airplanes. Now, just prior to the start of the second trial, the second Air India trial, this one where the 2 co-conspirators who were alleged at the time got underway in the early 2000s, Mr. Reyat came out and pleaded guilty to manslaughter, basically for acquiring the components to make the second bomb. So he's a bomb maker. He played a role in that. They didn't necessarily build with his own hands that second bomb. But once he pleaded to that, he agreed to several agreed statements of fact. And the Crown at that point thought, okay, great, we have a witness for our big trial. They called him to trial, and then he changed his story as the allegation. And so, you know, out of due course for justice, the Crown, after that case completed, decided, they reviewed the matter and decided to pursue these perjury charges. There is a bit of a subtext to this, however. You know, Mr. Reyat's the only person ever convicted in connection with Canada's worst mass murder, the worst act of aviation terrorism up until September the 11th. Now, Mr. Reyat is still a man that he's in the eyes of the RCMP, and some believe, anyway, that the intention here is to squeeze him a bit. That if he's possibly looking up to 14 years more in jail here, and this is on the line for him, that perhaps he'll start talking about things that the Crown and the police are convinced he is able to provide, but he's always maintained he does not know.
But on this perjury case, what is the Crown saying, if anything at all, Rob, about, you know, how difficult it will be to prove this?
They don't say it's difficult at all. They're laying out the facts bold-faced. So right before he pleaded guilty to the manslaughter charge, he, in a sworn affidavit, laid out a series of facts. They were agreed statements of facts in the negotiations for that plea agreement. And several months later, during the trial, during his testimony, the Crown says he contravened those facts. And he says, the Crown prosecutor, Leonard Dowse, says, on the face of it, you compare these two, the testimony and the affidavit, it should be very easy for a jury to come to the conclusion that he perjured himself not once but 19 times. We've yet to hear from the defense in this case. It's expected they'll get underway sometime next week. 7 days or so has been set aside for this trial.
We'll keep watching. CTV's Rob Brown. Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome, Jacqueline.